Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
What do you call him, Freddie?
I don't know. It's a saying, isn't it? Ready, Freddie?
I was going to crack this open at the time we started this, but I already cracked it open.
Really?
I'm sorry.
So is that your way of signaling to me that I should crack open? Or
sure, yeah.
Do I have to do it at the appointed time?
Whatever you want. What do you want?
What do I want? I want a brewski. So let me go. I wasn't prepared for the immediate cracking, but I'm ready now. There you go.
Nice.
Locked, loaded, and deployed.
And now you sound good. So, welcome everyone to episode 189 tonight. Alex Gross will join us later on, working with wolves and wolves in New York State. Alex has a boatload of knowledge of wolf population, stuff like that. He's been working with wolves for a while now, and we just I can't wait to get into the discussion. It's great. And then talk about maybe we're introducing wolves and mountain lions into New York State. Most likely mountain lions, because we see them all the time on the thousands and thousands of trail cameras that we have here. So let's get them reintroduced. DEC, your move.
It's going to be a great episode, and some mysteries are going to be resolved tonight about mountain lions in the Catskills. So you'll want to stay tuned.
Yes. And right now it is 8:00 on a Tuesday, and Tad, it is pouring rain.
Is it really where you are? Are you saying the drought is over? I have no idea what it's doing outside.
No, it's not over. We got rain this morning, and then that was it. Like 20 minutes, not even. So drought is not over. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of burn bans going on, and I think it's going to go on for a while. We're supposed to have rain for the next couple of days, but it's not supposed to be a significant amount of rain. So keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open on the burn bans and stuff like that, because I know the town of Hunter and the town of Shandaken has those out and about. So we should see that more across the state. And if we don't get a significant amount of rain within the next couple of days, it'll be going for a while. So, all right. So started off fucking fastest known times. Good Lord. Everybody's doing this stuff. Lila Sugar Herald sets the fastest known time for the woman's unsupported Appalachian time in 52 days, 18 hours, and 30 minutes. Rachel Jean, Gypsy Queen, sent me this info. So she becomes the first trans woman to set the fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail. Once again, 52 days, 18 hours, 37 minutes that she did it unsupported. And it's just crazy to think of in 52 days. So I thought I had more time when I got home today, but I really didn't. So to calculate how many hours that was per miles per hour that she did. So Tad, do you have those numbers? How do I pull that up?
No, I guess you're going to look at the total. What's the total mileage on the AT?
2,160.
Okay. So, all right. Hold on, folks. Hold on.
Yeah, sorry. This is Tad's good at this.
52 times 24. That's 1,248 plus 18 equals 1,266.
It's going all out.
Yeah, 12,6. And how many miles did you say the AT is?
I think 2,160.
That's it? That's all it is? That's not a big deal.
Okay.
Not disrespecting these folks. Whoops. Sorry, I just screwed it up.
No,
2,160 divided
2,197, sorry.
Oh, Jesus. I'm just doing it on 2,160.
That's good.
Okay. That's 1.7 miles per hour. It's 1.706161114. And there's sleeping in there, right? So, if you want to back out X number of hours per day that she was sleeping, right?
Yeah.
If you want to assume that she was only running 18 hours.
Well, this says that she was averaging more than 40 miles per day. She said she had a very good time, had a fun time and stuff like that. And
had a fun time. I don't believe that.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
We saw that, of course, with Kim Levinsky doing the long path, and that was 10 days. So you're talking about 52 days, and Kim had to change socks every day, shoes probably every 2 to 3 days. Now I couldn't even imagine with fucking unsupported. So she had to, they had to send packages to their areas that they were resupplied and stuff. So unsupported, totally unsupported. Tenting, not staying in that. Well, they could stay in a hotel, but I guarantee they wouldn't. Hostel, stuff like that. But
yeah, well, I would say according to Chris LeBlanc, who did his long path unsupported, he refused or did not appropriate any assistance from anyone. So would sleeping in a hotel constitute some level of support? I mean, somebody's providing a bed, making a bed, doing this for you, that for you. That
True.
Sounds like, according to what I got from Chris LeBlanc, that sounds like it's now being supported. What would be the line between supported then and unsupported? I leave an RV at a road crossing, but I'm not in the RV when you arrive. Is that supported? I would definitely think that's supported.
Oh, yeah.
I pitch a tent for you. That would seem to be supported. So why would be giving you a room to a hotel or motel or whatever constitute not getting support?
True. So I'm not fully talking about they might have done it, but I mean, you're kind of right. So I'm not sure if they did a hostel or stuff like that here and there. So I mean, that would you're right that someone making food for you is supported.
Yeah. So is sleeping in a lean-to then supported? Somebody built a lean-to for you, as opposed to putting up your hammock.
God, you're redoing the dynamics of supported.
Yeah. Does supported mean somebody made sneakers? Yeah. Somebody made sneakers for you versus unsupported. You made your own flip-flops.
You're redoing the whole
Barefoot Ken. He would do the true unsupported fastest no time because he does it barefoot, not even any shoes.
True.
Right. Okay. So I'm sure they have some level of definition what constitutes support and no support. What, in my view, is whether it's supported or unsupported. Fun? I'm not sure that's fun.
It doesn't sound like it.
Day after day, it's just like going to the gym every day. I mean, it's not like that, but it's sort of like that. I don't understand suffering. 15,
suffering.
Hours, 37 minutes on the AT.
Ted, what do you do if it's going to be a pouring rain day and there's going to be massive amounts of rain? You just don't go out. They had to go out and do this to set the fast on time.
That's where you bring the umbrella.
I know, Tal, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Thank you.
I think the umbrella is key.
It is.
That. One of those, I have, the super big $10 golf umbrella that I got at Walgreens that I'll take trail hiking with me.
How can you fit through that? That's insane.
Well, but you do on, durable, like you can do Slide Mountain on a super rainy day going up the Jeep Trail, Tremper, anywhere else that's got a very wide, well-established, durable surface to hike on with your golf umbrella. The problem is when you hear the thunder, then you got to make the real decision. You got to ditch the umbrella because it's metal. It's like walking around with a lightning rod. Yeah, and you got to, you either have to gear up or not. But when I did the Burroughs Range earlier this year and going over Wittenberg, I got caught in that, tropical downpour, thunderstorm, whatnot. I really didn't even gear up because I knew it was going to go over quickly and that I was going to get wet anyway. So just embrace the wetness. As long as you're not going to get cold, getting wet's not so bad.
Correct.
As long as your gear stays dry.
I agree. That's a great way to say it, actually. As long as your gear stay dry and you stay warm, it won't become one of those kind of times where you're panicking and be like, well, what should I do now? Yeah. And then especially when you have a freaking umbrella. God, that's a great idea. All right. So next, we talk about the women's unsupported fastest known time. Now, Jeffrey Garmier, I don't know how to say his name, sets the fastest known time for the unsupported Appalachian Trail men's time. Now, he beat Lila's time by 7 days, 10 hours. 7 days and 10 hours. He did it in 45 days and 8 hours and 37 minutes. Unbelievable, once again. And he tracked a lot of his stuff. He was posting a lot on Instagram of his daily activities, and he seemed freaking miserable. Mm-hmm. Right? I shared it as much as I can. Yeah, he was just like, you know what? This is not fun. My feet are hurting. This and that's hurting. It's too hot. This. It just, I was just
you were just recently in the Whites. You were on part of the AT. Could you imagine going all out on that? I mean, not running it because it's not possible to run it, but going as hard or as fast as you could all day long on that terrain in the rain.
Yeah, right.
And not getting injured. I think that's what's remarkable is whether it was 52 days or 45 days, they got up every day. They went out and did it regardless of the conditions. They don't seem to have taken a zero. And they go out and they're able to avoid injury, at least catastrophic injury, day in and day out. I'm sure they had, sprains, minor sprains and twists and scrapes and abrasions on the one hand, but on the other hand, nothing major. It's remarkable.
And I find the unsupported remarkable. Once again, Chicken Fat talks about his fastest known time on the long trail or the long path, and I just find anything unsupported just to be absolutely insane. Just to say that you're going to ship yourself this stuff, you're not going to meet a person here, this and that. You're not like you said, you're not going to stop at like a hotel or something like that. That you're going to maybe buy something from somewhere else. It's just
he didn't even go into a convenience store to get a Drake's cake, and he didn't call to have him come down and open the gate on the Washington Bridge. He slept there, waited for them to open it up in the morning.
Why isn't he famous? Like that story of
he is. I mean, he was pretty much an unknown. Nobody followed him. And then he was on the podcast. And if you see after he was on the podcast, he's like, international fame. And he's been on hundreds of podcasts since then. It really, being on our show, boosts him to international FKT stardom. He's fully sponsored now. He quit his job. He's got like a big Winnebago. He's cruising the country, living large. And his bumper sticker is, inside the line.
Yeah. Hey, good for him.
ITL Cats is his bumper sticker.
Yeah. So good for him. Good for everybody for setting these fast known time. Glad you guys, got out there and did your thing. Once again, if you know Lila or Jeff, and I mean, they have nothing to do with the Catskills really. So introduce them to our show and maybe they can come on here and talk about how miserable their lives were, because everybody's going to talk about their fastest known time, but I seriously want to know the shit that hit the fan. Like when they're like, I'm out. This sucks so bad.
Yeah. How many mornings did they wake up and say, I can't, but they did?
Yeah. How many, I wake up in my bed and I think of that, like today, I had kind of like a view of what the weather was going to be like. And I was like, let me sleep for a couple hours, but I didn't. I got up and I went out, But I was just like, I had that thought of like, I could stay here in this nice bed. But I don't even know what they have, a sleeping pad or a blow up sleeping pad. And they're out in the middle of the freaking wilderness. And like, God damn, I can't even think of that. I'd rather stay in huts. Huts are cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds very appealing to go up and do some hut hiking in the whites.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try to cue that up for next summer.
Hell yeah.
Start collecting returnables now, get all those nickel deposits back.
Well, you can't get these returnables from the hard ciders, man. They're not.
Really? Because they're not carbonated?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fucking New York State. They're a bunch of assholes. Anyway, so the DEC strengthens safety protocols for backcountry staff. This is phenomenal. So once again, New York State has come together, not just with, this time, but, this certain event that happened. Of course, it was Forest Ranger Brendan Jackson had I don't think we found out what the problem was. He was found dead in his tent at Tuck Hole after 7 days of being not chatted about, like he didn't chat it with the last communication. And today, Amanda Lefton confirmed safety reforms after his death. So the DEC has working toward implementing policy changes for the June death of Brendan. So once again, this is big. This is huge. Word got out about what had happened, and petitions were passed around. We've had a petition on this podcast for whenever it was started, and it's absolutely reached its time to where the DEC has responded to this, and I found this to be absolutely awesome news that they're going to do something about it. And it looks like the petition that hopefully we all sign that has listened to this, 6,300 signatures demanding comprehensive changes to how the department monitors the personnel in the field. It called for implementing tracking software that cannot be manipulated, mandatory call-ins, follow-ups, treating dispatch, stuff like that. And they said, Lefton said this was 100% preventable, noting that he followed all the proper procedures and died in the middle of a work week, which is absolutely insane to think of, especially when someone's doing something they love. And once again, Commissioner Lefton is really kind of kicking it into gear, I would say, with a bunch of stuff going on. And this is good news, great news, fantastic news. So thank you to everyone who has signed this petition and done this, because this is a big jump, especially for the DEC to make. Tad, what are you going to say, Tad?
My only comment is that the person who started the petition, who should be commended for doing so, but did say that Jackson's death was 100% preventable. I don't know how they can say that. They don't know what the cause of death was. He checked in at the end of his day. He didn't check in the next morning, so presumably he passed away or somehow became incapacitated overnight. So presumptively, if he didn't check in the next morning and somebody had noticed that, and then they sent somebody out to look for him, they wouldn't have gotten there, until the afternoon. Who's to say whether he would have been alive then or not? That doesn't excuse the DEC for not following the procedures it had in place at the time, because presumably they had people checking in for the purpose to verify that the folks were still out there and, alive. And hopefully this new procedure is going to be followed and they're going to get results from it. But it'd be interesting to know why Jackson passed away and whether or not that death could have been prevented.
And it's been a while since then. We haven't heard any report.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is from those initial reports is his body was too decomposed when they found it to determine the cause of death.
7 days is a long time.
Yeah.
So Danielle Carr, if you listen to the show, thank you very much for starting this. And thank you everybody who has signed once again. It's a big step, and hopefully this will protect our assistant forest rangers, our forest rangers, the DEC personnel from their regular duties that they have. So Tad, you added this good point. They're continuing to search for the 41-year-old man that killed his girlfriend that basically looks like both of us.
I don't think he's that good looking. He doesn't look like me. He looks more like you. Yeah, so
True.
Yeah, the news clip is the New York State Troopers, forest rangers, and other law enforcement personnel continue searching for the man suspected of killing his 41-year-old girlfriend. I think he was closer to 50 years old. And what I thought was interesting is the troopers and the rangers are asking hunters to check their trail cameras to see if they can spot the suspect. So if you have a trail camera up in the North Country, check it out for some suspicious looking guy in the woods, presumably without a backpack. I mean, he's been up there a couple of weeks now.
That's been like 2 weeks, right? Like a week or two. Well, I would say maybe 10 days.
Yeah. So now a couple of weeks ago, we reported on that fellow who I think it was 3 children. He was involved in a custody or visitation battle with the mother of his children. He killed them, and then he went off into the woods, and that fellow was found dead as if he committed suicide. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome is with this fellow from Cohoes who's suspected of slashing to death his 41-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah, that was 8 days ago. That was confirmed. So no signs yet of his. So that's it. I mean, he's pretty good. Let's see if he can be like Sasquatch and he can be the most famous hide and seek champion. But
yeah, you hope he does get apprehended and the story comes out, and that if he is the true murderer, then that's adjudicated as opposed to somebody else having caused it and not being on the radar screen right now. So whoever did this, I hope they apprehend him, and there's either some level of conviction or plea or whatnot. But I know as we're talking about this, what all the listeners want to know, because the last week was the cutoff date to sign up for the New York State DEC Ranger exam. And so there's like the Vegas odds makers have been giving odds on whether you signed up or didn't sign up to take the Rangers exam. Are you going to tell us on the podcast today, Stosh, or are you signed up? Are you going to be taking the Rangers exam on November 1st? Or are you passing this year? I think that's a yes. He's shaking it up and down. It's a definite yes. Can we confirm that, or are you going to keep us in suspense for a few more weeks?
So I didn't do it.
No,
I should have done it, but I realized that the amount of change I'd have to do to my life would be crazy and significant. That I'd have to move. I'd have to, I would love to be called Forest Ranger Stosh or Forest Ranger Russin. Like, it would be a dream, but I started doing stuff. I started doing my nephew is a New York State Trooper. It's going to be a New York State Trooper. And I was doing the Cooper fitness stuff, certain amount of push-ups for my age, certain amount of sit-ups for my age, time doing 1.5 miles for my age. I started doing that. I was kind of right below the line of good, which is all right. It's not bad. My nephew said he was on the line of good, and he's pretty young and he's pretty fit. So I felt good. But then I started doing a little bit of running here and there, and I did really good on my running. I did actually I was kind of almost hitting excellent. I forgot what the term was, but I was hitting that area. So it was pretty good. But then I was just like, man, a lot of changes I'd have, who knows what shift I would work? Who knows where I'd work? Who knows if I'd have to move? You have to be a certain radius of where your parameter would be in for a forest ranger duty. So it's a big change.
All right. So it's not going to be Ranger Russin this year.
It sucks.
But we'll have the t-shirts made up in anyway. So if you want a Ranger Russin shirt, you can buy your Ranger Russin.
Did you do a tag? Come on.
Me? It's like, my age bracket for that test, if I could crawl a mile, they'd hire me.
Jesus. Good. Well done.
That's all it takes.
Touche. Yeah. They're like, you're done. You're good. You're good. All right. So awesome shooting the shit chat. So thank you to the monthly supporters, Bob McMillan, Chris Garvey, and Jeff Johns, Vicky Ferrer, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Vanessa, Jim C., and Eric. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Once again, it doesn't go just towards the show. It goes back into the Catskills, just like our amazing sponsors, like Another Summit, a branch of Guardian Revival. This fall, they're inviting you to take part in something powerful, the 1 Mile Challenge. We have, I think it's like 6 days left. 7 days left. It's simple. Walk, run, or hike a mile a day for the month to solidarity for our veterans and first responders. Each mile is a step towards raising for awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. You can carry the weight or just carry the cause. The podcast has put together a team to help raise money and awareness, and we'd love to have you on board. Reach out to me to sign up, join our team, and to make every mile and every dollar count. Let's crush this fundraiser. We're up to about $1,200. So my goal was $2,000, but $1,200 is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you, everybody who's donated and participated. Also, discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project, our expert-led hiking and backpacking education program offered unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with the Trailbound Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. So, this previous week, were you really outdoors? Mention the podcast on one of your hikes through social media, and we are going to chat about it on the show. Tag us by typing at ITL Catskill MTM Podcast on your post, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever. So, first one of the night is Mighty Mischievous. Danny was out in the Shokin Quarry Trail and then went to a secluded area on a road walk. What do we call that area? The Wagon Wheel, Ted?
Yeah, apparently he went over to check out the Wagon Wheel, which at the time was populated by a bunch of DEC personnel.
Oh, no way. Nice. He told you a little bit more story than I did, and then he did to me. God damn it, Danny.
Yeah, so he used his better judgment and decided that, well, maybe something was going on over there and not to explore that region at this point in time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the Wagon Wheel is very amazing geological feature in the Catskills. So it's gotten to a good time of where it's been purchased by the DEC or New York State, and it's hopefully they'll do something up there.
Yeah, I mean, who knows when it'll be open up to the public. I was privileged to go over there last year with open space permission. And went through there with a buddy of mine who has, particular knowledge of the Catskills geology. And so he was able to give me like the firsthand explanation of, all these things and how it came to be or how it's believed to by geologists to come to be. It's a really fascinating place. And when it's open to the public, get over there if you can. It's worthwhile.
Yeah, it's definitely.
But definitely leave no trace because it's a pretty fragile ecosystem over there. When you get there, you'll know why.
Yeah, I think a while back, I mean, this is talking about 100 episodes back, maybe even more, that Dr. Titus talked about that area, the Wagon Wheel. So it's pretty crazy stuff. So congratulations, Danny, for going over there. Chaotic, Quixotic. She was all over the place. Jesus, she did. Yeah. Lisa did an impromptu hike up Balsam Lake Mountain with Cat, and Mary, and then did Santanoni Peak and Panther and the Adirondacks. Then went up did Table, Peekamoose, Lone, and Rocky. Unbelievable. Just I wish I had that free amount of time. Jesus.
Yeah, she in her post commented about solo hiking Table, Peekamoose, Loaded, Rocky, and the joys of going out in the woods solo. So it's great to see that she he's reached a level where she can, just savor those mountains, being out there by herself and hiking around in the Catskills or wherever else she goes. It's very cool.
She's back. She had an injury before, so she's back freaking killing it. So,
So you're basically saying she couldn't have done the AT in, what was it, 52 days or 45 days?
I mean, she's looking like she's on pace to do that, right?
Yeah, maybe next year. Maybe next year we can sponsor her just so she gets on the show to tell us about it.
Yeah, Lisa, you're going to have to wear a shirt and hat and backpack and stuff. So,
would that make it supported?
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah, we'll have to speak to our lawyers about that.
Correct. So Pink Pony 818 Tracy did Pika Moose from the new Pika Moose lot. And from my observation on the post, saw a lot of bear poop, which I did as well. So maybe it's the same bear poop that I saw as when I went up there. So, and she gave a little detailed explanation, like a little video of the new parking lot that has taken over Pika Moose area. So this is the time to hike Pika Moose because you don't have to pay for a permit.
Or deal with all the people, which might be a better reason to hike it now.
True. I mean, both, either or. It's really odd. I got to admit, going from what we used to have, starting straight up the mountain from I wouldn't say a formal hiking trail, but like a logging trail, to now having kind of like a paved area, going for a half a mile is a little odd.
Yeah. So. Well, that has somewhat of the indicia of an old bark road. So it could be an old bark road, but I think in the next 5 years, you're going to have vending machines there.
Yeah. Vending machine, compostable toilet, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right along the blue hole. So, and
maybe the A train will stop there. You can take a subway back to the city.
Hey, that means I can park outside of the city and probably pay less.
Yeah.
So, also, Catskill Mountain Brew was with Eric and Zorro doing Pika Moose Mountain and Table. Wayne got a brew and then did Round Top to finish off Eric's single season summer. And then went up and did Blackhead and Loop and solo, almost hitting someone on the road.
Was that all on the same day? You did all that hiking in one day?
I think the Pika Moose and Table and the Round Top was all in one day.
Okay.
And then he did the Blackhead Loop and almost hit someone. Apparently that was taking photos of the beautiful fall colors on the road. So
crazy.
Influencers.
So far we have 3 different people that hit Pika Moose and Table in the
True.
same.
Yeah. Wow. So Beyond Blazes, Joanne was up in the Adirondacks with Cammie and Steve Zhang, tagging Haystack Basin and Saddleback, which was originally called Habasa. And then the next day climbed up Gray, Skylight, and Marcy with a celebration on Skylight for Steve's completion of the 46. Hey, congratulations, Steve.
Yeah, kudos.
Awesome. Maybe one day I'll get in there, but then I'm probably not. I don't want to do I want to do the 46, but I don't. Do you have any desire to do that?
Yeah, I have desire to do it. Whether I'll make the time and the opportunity, that remains to be seen. But those who listen to the show and remember when I was much younger, I spent a lot of time hiking up there. Oh. I had no list. I didn't know that was like a thing to finish the 46. I just would go in there and just hike all over the place for anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks at a time.
Absolutely phenomenal.
With my camping gear that would be like in some, history museum now, stuff like the backpack weighed 40 pounds. It was made out of like iron.
Yeah, the
out of railroad. Yeah, out of railroad rails. That's sawed off. That's what the thing was made. That and canvas. That's what we used back then.
That's what we talked about in the Mountaintop Historical Society for the 100th episode.
Yeah.
Like this railroad was made out of Tad's freaking
that's
backpack.
Yep. I used to walk a mile uphill to school and a mile uphill back from school back in the day. That's how dumb I was.
I mean, we're all done. Off in the woods, Sean grabbed 3 peaks, tagging Sugarloaf and Plateau on Saturday. Then did Catskill High Peak on Sunday, making 24:37. Only 13 left. So, Sean, let us know where you're going to finish, and maybe we'll join you.
Yeah, that would be cool. Then
yeah,
we'll get
definitely.
on the show, and maybe we'll do it live on the trail or live here afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. So TJI, Tony, TJI underscore 72, aka Tony, was doing some late summer camping in the Western Catskills, traversing on some Finger Lake Trail ridges. Looked like he had a fantastic time out there. The weather was fantastic to do this, the outdoor backpacking and stuff in the Catskills and anywhere in New York State, really. I mean, even though it's dry, it's one of those times to just do backpacking in general. It looks like to be a phenomenal time. Red-Handed Adventure Guides. Mike was up on Eagle, Big Indian, and Fur. Looked like he had a great time. Beautiful weather once again. And then Golden Money Cat, Nicholas, completed his Firetown challenge. Congratulations, Nicholas. New listener of the show, said he loves the show. So congratulations, Nicholas.
I'm not familiar with that handle. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So congratulations, Firetown Challenge. Going to be getting caught into the 3,500. We know that once you get to the Firetown Challenge, you can't stop, right?
That's right.
I saw actually.
Yeah. Well, we called it like a gateway drug to Catskill hiking.
True.
So I'm checking out Nicholas's Insta feed. I see what I presume to be the Golden Money Cat. It's actually a black cat. To me, it looks very much like if it wasn't on a bed, it looks like it could pass for a mountain lion.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
somebody's backyard.
Might get that on trail camera.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I worked this weekend. I work on Sunday. We went to Binghamton, and my friend was looking at someone's license plate, and he's like, "Oh, that's from the Catskills." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Go back and look, and it's a Catskill Fire Tower Challenge license plate. I'm like, "Oh, it's one of the first." I forgot it was like the first 100 or 300 that you complete it, you get a license plate. So I was like, "Oh, it's one of the first 300." And then I see it was like a guy that was probably like 70 years old. I'm like, "Oh, wow. Disgrace. Shame.
Well, you got to be careful. I'm closing in on 70. So.
True. And you can do that in a day.
I'm not sure of that, but
I think you can.
Yeah. I could do it unsupported in 2 days.
Unsupported. 2 days. Nice.
As long as a stop at Snyder's doesn't count as support, I'll be okay.
But still, you could park at one end and you can bike and ride the whole freaking thing. Like, seriously.
Maybe that'll be a new challenge.
Do it.
And then I'll get the license plate.
Yeah, right. And it has Tad's face doing thumbs up.
Yeah. Or getting defibrillated because I went coded.
You're down at Red Hill and he's just like, he's crashing.
Yeah, with my shirt ripped open, a couple of paddles on me, doubling the voltage.
I love
Somebody yelling clear.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'll present that to Commissioner Lefton. Sorry, we'll present that. So thank you everybody who tagged the show. Once again, those hikes count. Everybody else doesn't. So buy us a hard cider to support the show. If you think we're doing a good job and you want to show us some support, buy us a coffee, hard cider on buymeacoffee.com. Links will be in the show notes. Also rate the show. Previously, it looks like one of our listeners, hold on. Catskill Stewart said that he rated the show 5 stars. Passionate hosts who truly understand the outdoors and conservation. The recent episode nailed it about pointing out how the crowded areas aren't the place for hunting. So he truly understands. So, all right. Thank you for rating the show once again.
Yeah.
Anybody, rate the show however you can.
Even if you don't listen to the show, rate it.
Yeah, 5 stars. Previous hikes. You want to go first, Dad?
Okay, so Saturday was a beautiful day, and I decided to do the mountains I had planned to do the week before, but was not able to do them. But I did a different route than what I had.
Because you got injured, right?
Well, I'm not sure if I got injured, but what happened had me scale back my plan. So I set out to hike Black Dome, Thomas Cole, and Blackhead from Colgate Lake, whacking up Black Dome, which I have done before, and it was as lovely this past weekend, as I remember it from when I did it about 5-6 years ago, following, going up the same ridge, but, I didn't go up exactly up the same path. And if our Catskill backcountry skiers are listening, I will say that slope of Black Dome that faces Colgate Lake, I would assume, is very backcountry skiable. Not a lot of tree litter going down, not a lot of low ground cover going down. There are some big terraces that, you'll have to, push or pull your way through. But it struck me as something that would be really, really cool to ski down if you were so inclined. But it was a beautiful day. Obviously, I didn't see anybody on the way up. Saw very few people on the trail. I went out to Thomas Cole, then back over Black Dome, down through the Col, up over Blackhead. And at the summit of Blackhead, I met Myra.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, not Myra, what is it, Romano?
Okay.
Who was previously on the show, but somebody who works for her in the Trail Steward program.
Oh, nice.
And so she has been out there doing this all summer long. She had a fantastic time being a trail steward in the Catskills, and she was hanging out there at the summit, had a brief chat with her, and then explained to her that she would soon hear some breaking branches off trail. That would just be me making my way down, right? So I went down Blackhead, and shame on me, I wasn't really paying attention when I dropped off of Blackhead, and so I really started going down the super steep part, and I got pretty deep into it before I realized that I was like really falling into the steeper part and would just be totally miserable.
Did you just go right down from the summit? Like you traveled from the summit and then just went down?
No, I went past the Camp Steel rock and continued on a little bit and tried to get more on the ridge proper.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah. And then I went over that first terrace, and then I started dropping down. And when you go down that first terrace, you kind of get pushed over to the right a little bit because it's so thick there. And I just never corrected again. And so I just, for, I don't know if it was 1/10 of a mile or 2/10 of a mile, but yeah, I was going down some steep, really, really thick stuff. And thankfully there was a lot of thick ground cover. So you had handholds, going all the way down. And then at one point I kind of checked my bearing, and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely off course here. And then I looked at the GPS and I said, whoa, I'm way off course. So I started side hilling. I didn't go 90 degrees to get back onto the ridge proper. I kind of like went at somewhat of an angle and made my way over. But it took me quite a while, and yeah, it wasn't pleasant. It was very thick, but it was to be under the canopy on Saturday with the trees starting to change over. It was just really, really beautiful up there, really glorious. It's really interesting. Those Black Dome and Blackhead both have some rather large terraces on them. I did find what I assumed to be logging roads as high as about 3,100 feet on both. I didn't follow them all the way, but I did coming down Blackhead, because I was so far off course. I did start exploring some of these old logging roads, and then eventually I just made my way back down to the parking lot just across the road from Colgate Lake, and there was a Ranger's pickup truck parked next to my trusty Jeep. And as I walked up to the Jeep, the window of the Ranger truck went down. I thought I might be in trouble for a second because I was bushwhacking. And I had a very pleasant and engaging conversation with Ranger Fox, who told me how much she loves her job, how much she really loves being a ranger, and it's all this great stuff and the camaraderie and all the things she gets to do, and, how it's made her life really worthwhile and fulfilling. So that was really great to hear from her. And so we had like an hour-long conversation, which was nice. And then she got called to a small brush fire and had to take off. So I, took off my gear and made my way out of there. So it was a great hike. Black Dome, Thomas Cole, Blackhead, part bushwhack, part trail.
Nice.
All fun. Yeah.
Well, sounds like a great time. I mean, you had beautiful weather.
Yeah. I had planned on whacking up Thomas Cole from that side, because I haven't done it from that side yet. But you have to skirt around private property to get over there. And I just wasn't, with the low ground cover, I wasn't so much into it. But I imagine from all these logging roads that are out there that you could walk on a logging road all the way over there. It won't be that bad. So that's what I might be doing next time.
I agree. Definitely, those logging trails, especially in that area, because it was more like populated, can lead to so many different crisscross patterns and stuff like that, and can lead you to nowhere. You're like, oh, this is going a little bit up, and then it just stops, and you're like, okay, so now I got to navigate now.
Yeah, well, what you run into is the logging road goes off the ridgeline proper to one side or the other of the mountain, and then you don't know when it's going to cut back towards the ridgeline. And
True.
so sometimes you follow it all the way out, and it does cut back, and you'll see it intersects with one or two more logging roads on the way out. One presumably going down the mountain. Seldom does the logging road go up the mountain. It generally zigzags back and forth. But I had checked out Mike Kudish's mapping of these mountains before I went out to get some additional information on it. Just to confirm what I saw out there, and that was that you run into really young forests on your way up. There's not a lot of old and interesting growth until you get above 3,100, 3,200 feet. There's some significant ledges on the way up Black Dome, but nothing that's really, a problem to get up and over or around. Same thing coming down Blackhead. There's just that one ledge at the top that you got to go around to the right.
Yeah.
But it's a good hike.
Definitely.
I don't know why it took me 5 years to get back, but yeah.
I gotta admit that that hike is very enjoyable. It's not like you said, the skier's delight, kind of like, they could just kind of like zigzag back and forth and stuff like that.
Well, I think for the skiers, it's a function of, hidden ledges as you're coming downhill that you're not going to see as you approach them. Those can be dangerous. And then where you're running into a lot of fallen trees that could be buried under the snow, but not deep enough where you're going to ski over them. You're either going to ski into them, or your skis are going to go under the fallen tree, and your shins or knees are going to hit the tree itself. And that would be rather dangerous. But I will say, on both of those mountains, more so Black Dome, it just struck me as very skiable because there wasn't a lot of blowdown. There wasn't a lot of rotted and fallen trees. It was a pretty clean forest to hike up at. Blackhead, I won't agree. So with that said, I'm just wondering if you got out, Ranger Russin, to do any hiking.
I did. I actually, once again, I kind of went against what my instincts thought. I was just like, oh shit, there's going to be rain today. I want to avoid that, but I was just like, I'll go out. I had no plans, but then I was just like, today I made the plans that we're talking about. I was like, I'm going to bushwhack up Windham High Peak. I saw previously in the Strava heat maps that when that area was closed due to the plane wreck, that everybody started bushwhacking straight up Windham High Peak from that DEP
from Big
land.
Hollow Road. Yeah. I've been up that way many times.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'll check this out and see, if there's any evidence of a kind of like a herd path or stuff like that. I found very, very little evidence of a herd path, unless I just missed it. But I wanted to hit straight up the cirque proper and hit the summit. But unfortunately, I was a little off. I was a little misguided on my directions, and I kind of hit the ridge that kind of connects with the escarpment, and I was only about a half mile off of the summit. So I just was just like, I kind of looked at my map on my phone and I was just like, all right, I could side hill freaking like 7/10 of a mile and hit the summit, or I could just go straight up and hit the trail, and like 3/10 of a mile I can hit the trail and then just coast. And I'm glad I did, because it was actually somewhat enjoyable hike. There's nothing too crazy to go about going up Windham High Peak. Up above there's open areas, there's not much ledges, there's a lot of nettles, there's cool fern glades, there's a lot of logging roads, because if we talk about previous episodes, that Windham High Peak used to be actually grazed full of actually like crops and stuff. They actually put crops up there and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy to think about, but that's why we don't have balsam forest up there and stuff. But once I hit that ridge and nailed it up there, and then to be honest, I was like, oh man, it's nice. It's a cool 64 degrees. Absolutely not. No wind. Freaking humidity was like 90%. So I'm sweating my freaking ass off going all the way up. And it's just crazy. And, it was just absolutely phenomenal time. Going up, hit the trail, and I summit, I go down. It's like, I'm going to go to that first viewpoint on the escarpment right before Burnt Knob. And then I'm going to check that out, because I didn't get a view at all. I got probably to around 3,400 feet, and it started getting cloudy mist sitting up there. No significant amount of mist. It was just lingering. And the rocks and stuff were a little bit wet here and there, but it felt like it should be more. But every time I got up further, it seemed like the clouds lifted a little bit higher, but I still wouldn't get a view. It was really weird. I thought I would be more in the mist, but I didn't get any views, I love Windham. Windham has great views. Over.
Yeah, it's got a great view of the Blackhead Range from there, and we've got enough color in the mountains now that it would it would really be worthwhile. To see that.
I think we're hitting peak in the northern Catskills. Like, we are, like, I drove through and I could see Windham High Peak, and before I did this, and I can see Windham Mountain Club, and they are popping like crazy. Yeah. So,
well, look at my post from, I think it was yesterday, that I put going up Black Dome. Yeah, I would say that at a certain elevation, everything's really popping. Down low in the valley, it wasn't on Saturday popping, but yeah, you're a couple days further from when I was up there. I'm sure you had if you had a view, you would have had nice color.
Yeah, I did have views. I don't know what that viewpoint is called. There's no, it doesn't have a.
I think it's called Ranger Russin view.
Ranger Russin viewpoint.
Yeah. So all right. So you head over to Burnt Knob.
No, before Burnt Knob, I hit that viewpoint.
Okay, just before Burnt Knob. Where did you go after that? How did you get down?
So my plan was to just escape off of that and then just beeline it to my car, which is sitting over on Big Hollow. But I'm like, you know what? That drainage right in the call of Windham High Peak, and the second summit of Burnt Knob is actually like pretty enjoyable. So I'll go back down there, and then I'll just head down the drainage, and there's a big fork in between two things that I saw in Avenza, and then I'll just beeline it to the car. And dude, what an enjoyable freaking hike that is, going down that call.
So did you come out in the little access point that's right across from the old fish shack on Big Hollow Road?
No, I came out in that field, that same field that I started
in. The DEP field. Yep. So so did you come down, like there's a main road that goes, after you cut over the field, you hit, there's the lower field that's on the level of Big Hollow Road. Then you go up a little incline, and there's a big, well, not a bigger field, but there's a big field up there, like on a terrace. And then you walk along what looks like a dike. It's an old dam, earthen dam through there. Did you see that?
Haven't seen that. I followed a nice stone wall.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty prominent feature going through there, and my information is it used to be an earthen dam there to power a sawmill.
I might have missed it only by a couple hundred feet. Is that between like the two crevices that you have between those two dirt mounds that you first go over and then you go down and then you go up?
It's when you hike through the first DEP field, you go all the way over to the east edge of that field along the property line and basically stay along the property line. There's a little wooded section, slight uphill to the second field that I mentioned. And then once you get through that second field, you hit this berm. And to me, when you're walking on it, if you're paying attention, you're like, what is this? How did it get here? And so after asking around, the information I got is there used to be an impoundment of water that would power a water-powered sawmill.
Oh, wow.
Up there. Yeah.
I freaking missed that. Now I got to go back. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And that whole area from between that impoundment, again, going to the east towards Burnt Knob, I've hiked through there, those two water courses up there. It's pretty interesting terrain. And I'm going to tell you, going to the summit proper from the DEP land, you're really not missing out on much. You run into it's really swampy up there, really, really wet, lot of small trees, and that flat Catskill, flat stone, talus slope. Not really enjoyable. I can tell you one of the worst bushwhacks I ever did was. Well,
I'm glad I didn't like go through with it.
I was hiking up that area and I hit like this one lift that the snow was like chest deep. There was like this massive snow drift in it. It seemed to take me a lifetime to get through it. And yeah, I made it through it, but I cut my day short at Wyndham and retraced back to the Jeep.
Yeah.
So it was fun coming down. I'll say that. Going up was another story.
Yeah. I could tell you that call between like whatever that little hump is called and Wyndham High Peak is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Just beautiful open terrain and just the ledges and stuff that if the water was flowing, it would have been absolutely magical.
So what the seasoned Catskill hiker wants to know is, what is the nettle activity like over there?
Oh, they were almost all dead.
Yeah. Okay.
Gone. I didn't battle any. Yeah,
but if you were there in July or August, you would be telling us that it's infested.
Oh, dude. So you know what, when you travel down these calls and they have the waterways and then you have the moss and stuff, you'll be slipping, sliding, you'll be second guessing traveling down any of these areas, right? Mm-hmm. Nope, none of this. I traveled through the middle of these river or whatever. There's no proper creek that this is called. Traveled right through the middle of this and enjoyed. I hate to say, enjoy the fuck out of it because it's just
a pretty deep relief. So did you hit any bedrock going through there? That's a Danny Davis question, by the way. He wants to know when and where you hit bedrock on these sites.
I do have, that's funny that I mark that stuff. I kind of like travel from side to side, like 20 feet to mark where there's kind of like different forms of bedrock and kind of waterfalls. So I did hit some areas, but not many, like 2 or 3, maybe of like 15 foot to 20 foot bedrock like areas, but not much. It was a lot of loose rock, but enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, that's almost a contradiction in terms. Loose rock, enjoyable.
It's just it was beautiful. You've been there through there. It's just an absolute phenomenal area.
Yeah. Maybe I just didn't have as many hard ciders as you had.
Oh, I didn't have anything. I had water. Really?
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, phenomenal time.
Were you up there looking or searching for anything?
You know what? You chat about this because I sent it to you. I was looking when I got up to the trail. I was kind of looking for that plane crash, but I didn't see anything. So, any evidence? I was looking seriously left and right constantly.
Yeah, because wasn't it to the west of the summit?
I thought it was to the south of the summit.
Well, it was south of the summit, but west. So if you drew a straight line from where you entered the DEP property to the summit, it would have been to the left or west side of that line. That's my understanding.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to
look to go to my new contact, Ranger Fox, and see if she discloses that information.
I know regular fox a little bit more than you, so.
Okay. I had one conversation with her. You probably had more.
Maybe she yelled at me a couple times for not doing the proper maintenance. She's like, "Hey, don't be doing that proper maintenance." Plus, the one thing that sucked is that like a quarter of the time it didn't track my progress. So on my app, so I did get a little bit. It was like in my tracking, it was 4.12 miles with 900 feet of elevation gain. So I'd probably
for today's hike.
Yeah, probably add probably a mile with, I would say, looks like like 800 more feet. So not bad.
Yeah. Beautiful. So when I whacked Wyndham from that area, and only Wyndham, it was 6.5 miles, 1,600 feet of gain. So again, listen closely, 6.5 miles in the deep snow. How long did it take me?
Oh God, probably like 5 hours.
5.5 hours.
Oh, nice.
Not a fastest known time.
Not at all. Wouldn't say that at all. So yeah, it was a good day. Once again, I would say it is hitting peak in the northern Catskills. So get out there. This is Tuesday. That's a report. So we don't know what's going on.
No excuses for this weekend, right?
Correct.
If you don't hike this weekend or next weekend, you'll probably regret it.
Correct. So awesome. So Catskill news. Let's see. Volunteer. New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, Catskill 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountain Club, Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew. Please volunteer as much as you can. Stickers. You need free stickers. Contact me on your social media post or on the face or the web page. Sorry. So also, New York, New Jersey Trail Conference is doing what they call a trail-a-thon, a fundraiser for the trail conference starting October 1st to the 31st. Sign-ups are now live, and there is a link in the show notes. Get a personal mileage goals or rally your friends and family to support your journey, then start moving. Log your miles anywhere on the trail, city streets, or even a treadmill. Along the way, you'll earn rewards from the trail conference like maps and gear. Also, weather forecast. So, this weekend looks to be, in the morning on Friday, looks to be a little bit of rain, not too much. And then, pretty nice, 54 degrees high, low of 48. Saturday looks to be sunny or partly cloudy skies, high of 57, a low of 54. And then Sunday looks to be a little bit of rain, 0.03 inches, a high of 57 and a low of 55. So it looks to be a decent weekend to be out on the trail. So get out there and get out on the trail, knock down some of these peaks. So last set of sponsors, and then we'll get on to Alex. So, discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here and help every hiker, from beginners to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, Capture Your Love Story gets breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that you reflect a unique bond in nature's grandeur, and embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Tonight, Alex Gross is here, and he's going to chat about working with wolves. His job is working with wolves. And we're going to also chat about wolves in New York State, previous history, maybe if they can be reintroduced to New York State. We don't know. I mean, the mountain lions are, so you never know. Right? Tad knows.
Yeah, it's what we call, if you don't have the wolves, but you have the mountain lions, you don't have a balance of power. That's the way I see it.
That's the way it is. That's the way I see it. So, Alex, welcome to the show, buddy. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Alex, a little bit of background. I met Alex up at the Wolf Sanctuary in Smyrna, New York, which is central New York, and he has a deep passion of working with the wolves. So we had a great chat of standing by two timber wolves that were waist high. That it was just amazing. It was just insane. And Alex has a deep passion for this. So I'm like, I got to get him on the show, and he's awesome. His knowledge is beyond what I can comprehend. So tonight I'm probably going to have a little brain fart, and Tad's going to have to take over. So I don't. So welcome to the show, Alex. Why don't you give a little background about yourself? You can go all in, or you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, so I've been interested in large carnivores probably since the tail end of my senior year of high school. My first big interest was lions, and I kind of started within Africa's carnivores and doing some research throughout my undergrad on lions, hyenas. It sort of started to build and build. I am particularly interested in social carnivores, so carnivores that live in social groups. Lions, of course, and hyenas live in groups, but wolves as well. So wolves kind of became a natural interest for me. So my junior year of college, I got into an internship with the Wolf Sanctuary, Wolf Mountain Nature Center, which is where I met you, Stash, and I did that for some time. After my internship ended, continued going back there as a volunteer or as a caretaker assistant. And then I've always wanted to do research, and I've always been very passionate about the research side of large carnivores. So after some time since graduating as an undergrad with my bachelor's, I wanted to really push to try and do more research. And eventually I landed a position here with the Voyageurs Wolf Project, where we study the summer ecology and reproductive ecology of wolves. And that's where I've been at since last April. So
nice. Now, Alex, so where were you born, stuff like that? Were you a New York Stater to begin with, or?
Yeah, I was born on Long Island, been on Long Island basically my whole life. Went to school as an undergrad at SUNY Oneonta. I transferred there during my spring semester of my freshman year and spent the rest of my time there. And I graduated in 2022 in May. So
now you've lived in Long Island your whole life, but you have a Canadian accent. That's I can't tell the Long Island accent. You know what I'm saying? But like you have a Canadian accent. I was like, wow, Long Island.
Did you play hockey?
I didn't. I actually played baseball my whole life. I actually originally committed to play baseball in college because I played it really since I was 5 years old. But after some time, I realized that this was the work that I really wanted to do. And I really wanted to fully commit myself to it and my academics. So I ended up pulling out of that commitment. It was a Division III school, so it's not like there was any money or scholarship money attached there. And that's when I went to pursue this. So yeah, baseball has always been my sports.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Nice. Tad's a big baseball guy, right?
Yeah, I am. Not that I've ever been big playing baseball, but there's something about watching the Yankees lose season after season that I'm really good at.
I'm a Yankee fan, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Tad, you're a Mets fan, right?
No, I'm a Yankees fan. And actually, today, my wife got me a new recliner, as if the old one was like the Yankees jinx, and the new recliner is going to bring the Yanks another World Series this November. So we're going to see. We're going to see if it was my recliner that jinxed them the past
freaking
years.
It was A-Rod's $292 million freaking signing. That's what got him.
Yeah, that shows you how old Stosh is. He doesn't know the other mistakes since A-Rod. But all right, let's talk about something more interesting.
Yeah. So now you get in this education, stuff like that. What was like, did you have to go through certain courses in college to kind of like dig deeper into the profession that you wanted?
Yeah, so I majored in biology with a concentration in conservation biology and ecology. So within any biology program, you're generally going to take kind of the foundational courses. So cell biology, molecular biology, which isn't exactly what I focus in, but it's just kind of something you have to get into. But then ecology, evolution, those are the things that I was taking a lot of and really interested in. I took some courses in animal behavior, advanced evolution and ecology, ornithology, which is specific to birds, but a lot of the same principles kind of apply to that as well. Conservation biology as well. Those were a lot of the courses that I was taking. Anything regarding animal behavior, just how species interact with each other on ecosystem and individual level is sort of the sort of my interest, and a lot of the courses that I took were related to that.
Interesting. That's great. And then this like kind of all intertwines together with, the birds working together, and then you go to carnivores, herbivores, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything interconnects in some ways. So, yeah.
So as I understand what you said so far, Alex, it was an internship that brought you to the Voyageurs Wolf Project. Is that correct?
So the internship brought me to the Wolf Mountain Nature Center, which was the sanctuary or the preserve that I first started working at. The position that I have with the Wolf Project right now is a contracted job. So it's not exactly an internship, but
Gotcha.
It is a paid position.
So where do you work? Do you work in, where is it, Minnesota or upstate New York?
Northern Minnesota is
and
where
that's where you are today?
Yes, that's where I am today.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm still involved with the Wolf Preserve. It's a little bit more remote. I can't be there as much as I used to be. I used to be there every week when I was in college still, and then every other weekend I would drive from Long Island up there and spend the weekends there. But I'm still on the board of directors there, so I still have a role there, and I certainly try and get there as much as I can. It's certainly a lot less than I used to, but as much as possible, I definitely try to get up there for sure.
Gotcha. So you say you're on the board of directors there, but I sense underneath your hoodie you're wearing a tie-dye shirt. So you're not
I am.
You're not 100% corporate. That's cool.
Not exactly.
Yeah. So going back to the Voyageurs Wolf Project, why don't you tell us what the project is in a little bit more detail? I'm not sure I got all of it. With something with the summer.
Yeah. So the project, at least the inception of the project, was really the main goal is to address one of the bigger knowledge gaps in wolf ecology, which is what do wolves do in the summer? Now, where we study wolves in northern Minnesota, primarily it's a lot of southern boreal forests. So it's very difficult to actually see what wolves are doing. And there's long been knowledge gaps as far as what do wolves do in the summer here, and also particularly what do they eat and how do they raise their pups, how many pups are born, where do they have dens, and all of that. So the main goal, at least at the beginning of the project, was to sort of address those knowledge gaps. And we still do that today. But it has evolved from that as well. We also do a lot of work in the winter. But that was basically the big goal of the project, is to address what do wolves kill in the winter, what do they feed on, and then what is sort of the reproductive ecology. When are pups born? The number of them born, when do they die? Do they die? How many survive to adulthood, and all of that? And that has been something that's notoriously hard to study in forested ecosystems like the one up here.
Gotcha. So what elevation are these southern boreal forests?
I'm not exactly positive. It's nowhere near what you would see out west, say in Yellowstone or like the Rocky Mountains, for instance. And probably I would say lower than, say, the Adirondacks and Catskills. It's pretty flat area. It's not very mountainous at all.
Gotcha.
So definitely nowhere near to the elevation that you guys see up there in sort of central upstate New York.
So before we get into any more particulars, why is it important what they do in the summer versus the winter? Who cares? They're in the boreal forest. You can't see them. Why does it matter?
I mean, with wolves and anything, we really just, if we want to work in really understanding and finding the best ways to conserve these species, manage these species, we need to understand them. And, particularly when it comes to populations and studying populations, we don't know and we can't have a full picture of how these wolves are doing if we don't know what they're doing in the summer and how they're doing in the summer. So studying them in the summer, especially this general area where it is difficult, gives us more of a full picture understanding of what is going on, how the populations are doing, how resilient they are to changes, and all of that. So
I suppose at the end of the inquiry, what you learn helps you better introduce them to other areas, if that's what you want to do.
potentially, yeah, definitely. If you want to reintroduce any species, you obviously want a lot of knowledge of how these individuals operate and how these species operate. So the more knowledge that you have, there definitely helps to sort of advise those ideas.
So I'm going to take liberty to ask a couple more questions off
Yeah,
the
of
list.
course.
What did you guys learn about the pups? You told us, things about how many are born, what their
Yeah.
mortality is, how many grow to adulthood. So what interesting things has the project learned about pups, wolf pups?
Well, we're still learning. That's the great thing about science is that you learn things and that always introduces more questions. But as far as wolf pups that go, we know generally wolf pups are born in April, and the summer is a very interesting time of the year because, in particular, we think of wolves as being social animals, but adults, especially in our study area, tend to operate more as individuals and do a lot more on their own. So the pups will be at dens, and then eventually they'll get old enough and join the adults in rendezvous sites and hunts and all of that. But during much of the time, we need to figure out when wolves are making these kills, what they're killing, and all of that. So when it comes to the pups, it's an interesting time of the year because the adults are killing a lot of small prey. So, and killing prey kind of reinforces mortality rates. So if wolves are killing prey and they're feeding their pups, then you have the prey or the pups themselves will survive. But you get into these periods potentially where if wolves aren't killing those prey, then you have higher rates of mortality. So wolves in the summer are killing lots of beavers, which is a very interesting thing and something pretty unique to our study area and sort of other southern boreal ecosystems, but also deer fawns. So we see generally that wolves that are more successful at killing beavers and deer fawns are able to provision their pups with that food, and you'll have higher pup survival while they're killing those prey. But if that isn't the case, then pup survival drops, generally speaking. So, and there's tons of other aspects that go into this, but generally speaking, prey is a big driver of not just pup mortality, but just wolf mortality as a whole. If there's food and the wolves are killing, then the pups are surviving. If they're not killing that prey and they're not provisioning their pups with food, then there might be higher mortality rates. So
Interesting. Now, who kills more? The mom, the dad, the male, the female, and then brings it back? Who's out more? Who's watching the pups more?
So generally both. Any of the what we call a breeding pair, so the male and the female that breed and have the pups are pretty experienced individuals generally, and they'll be the ones that are going out killing prey and then bringing the prey back and regurgitating whatever food that they killed to the pups. Other packs will also have yearlings, which are generally the breeding pairs offspring from the year before. Yearlings, what we generally see is they're more loosely associated with the pack. They're not exactly killing and bringing food immediately back to the pups as much as their parents would be. But I would say pretty equally, the breeding male and the female are doing a lot of work. Yearlings, not so much. They're kind of still learning how to become wolves and be wolves. So we generally see that pattern of yearlings not being as associated with the pack. They're still visiting the rendezvous sites and the dens, but not nearly as much as the breeding male and the breeding female that are tending to the pups a lot more.
Interesting. So like with this in the summer, I can't, it's easier to travel in the winter because everything's frozen over, especially in northern Minnesota. But in the summer, how do you guys travel over this? I mean, I've researched where you are, and it's more of like kind of like the boreal forest and wetlands, like it's and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah. So
it
like
is. Yeah.
if you look up where he works, northern Minnesota is a lot of wetlands, and it's a lot of areas that are secluded and stuff like that. So how do you transport? How do you use transportation to get up there?
So we use our legs a lot, for sure. It's a lot of different environments. So the first year was basically driving my car up the trails and then walking and doing lots of bushwhacking. Since I was back for the winter and now this summer, it's a lot of ATVing down trails as well, is really, really important for us. But even an ATV, or a snowmobile, whatever it is, can get you so far. Eventually you have to get out and either start walking, either on trails or just bushwhacking through all of these areas. It's certainly never always pleasant, and I'd say more likely than not, it's potentially unpleasant, especially when we have to deal with these wetlands and these dense forests. And there's also a lot of logging that goes on in our study area south of the national park. So when you have all of those logged areas that maybe were logged 10 years ago, so now everything is sprouting up at once, it's very dense and difficult to move through. So we definitely have to travel through some very, very unpleasant habitats to just to figure out what these wolves are doing. And I guess the sad part is like 90% of the time you'll, travel through a really miserable area, get to a spot where a wolf was, and all they were doing is bedding down there. You don't even, lots of times don't even get something cool to sort of reward you for the work that you put in to get to some of these areas. But that's just part of it, we have to, it's very rigorous what we do, and we have to push through some pretty unpleasant conditions to figure out what the wolves are doing.
Yeah, that bushwhacking sounds interesting. I might give bushwhacking a try sometime, as opposed to trail hiking. But speaking about the conditions and these boreal forests, and they're thick, and the work you're doing, how do you know what they're doing? I mean, what type of equipment do you use? Other than your own eyes and ears, do you have trail cameras out there, some type of tracking mechanisms?
Absolutely.
So tell us about the technology that goes into what you do.
Yeah. So I would say 80% of what we do up here is searching GPS clusters from wolves that wear radio collars. So our collaring season generally runs from early May to early August. And in that period, we try and trap and collar as many wolves as possible. Now, the collars in the summer specifically are set to transmit locations to a satellite every 20 minutes, and we can remotely change how often these collars are sending out locations. But the reason we want to do it every 20 minutes in the summer is because the wolves are killing a lot smaller prey in the summer, and we want to make sure that we can detect those from the locations. Now, what a GPS cluster is a wolf, let's say, for instance, a wolf puts out a location, and then 20 minutes later, puts out another location, and that second location is 200 meters or less from that previous location it puts out. That forms what's called a GPS cluster, and every subsequent location from that first point that is 200 meters or less will add points to the cluster until the wolf moves over 200 meters from that first point. And you could imagine if you have, let's say a wolf spends 3 hours within a 200-meter radius, that's 9 points. If the cluster or the collar is putting out locations every 20 minutes, we will then hike into that area to figure out what the wolves are doing there. So it's precisely the collars that allow us to go to the spots that wolves have spent lots of time and figure out what they're doing there. So that's how we figure out sort of predation behavior in wolves. So we'll go to these spots, and lots of times you'll just find a bed site, just a little area where a wolf was bedding down or doing nothing. Lots of other times you'll find a kill site, whether it was a beaver kill, a fawn kill, deer kill, whatever the case may be. You might find a spot where the wolf wolves are scavenging. But that's sort of the big way that we figure out what wolves are predating on, because we don't have the privilege of being able to watch these animals in person because it's all forest. We have to hike into these areas after the fact to figure out what they're doing. So that's a big thing. Yeah.
You look at evidence on the ground for that, whether there's like a carcass there or something else, evidence of bedding, whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for bed sites, a lot of times you could see just kind of little indentations in the ground or just a flattened area in the veg. And if you look in it, you could see wolf hair, which is where the wolf that we were following was bedded. And then as far as kills, really depends on the species. On the fawns, when they first drop, are very, very discreet. So a lot of times all that's left of them, especially when they're firstborn and they're really small, is just a little bit of hair, sometimes some blood, sometimes some small bone fragments.
From a baby fawn, that's all they leave.
Fawn. It's it's pretty remarkable, and actually with
and
this
sad.
job,
Sad. What are you talking about? That's life.
Sad. Killing little baby fawns. Wow, that's awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that's how we start generally. When we first get up here, especially if it's your first year, you're not just thrown out into the woods and doing stuff on your own. Especially when it comes to getting trained on searching these clusters, a lot of it is the fawns, because the fawns are consistently the hardest kills to find, because when they're first born, there's just so little of them, and the wolves can kill and consume them so quickly that even our clusters, like the cluster points, there are maybe 2 points in a cluster that are spread out. And you look at that and you think, oh, there's probably nothing there. And then you go to just one of those points and it's just small disturbance in the vegetation. And you look in and you'll see maybe a little bit of golden fawn hair, maybe some blood on a leaf, some small bone fragments, and that's it. It's pretty crazy to think about that.
I'm going to have to take a moment just to shed a couple tears over the fallen fawns. So while I'm doing that, and before I turn it back to Stosh, on the web page, I see like all of these different colored tracks on a map: Moon Shadow, Huron, Tamarack.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so a lot of those lines that you see in all of those different colors, those are the wolf pack territories. And when the wolves are wearing these collars and transmitting those locations, we could basically look at just all of their locations from an entire year, 2 years, 3 years, and that's what it forms these pack territories. Now, I mentioned collars are a big part of what we do, but I also forgot to mention that trail cameras are also a huge part of what we do, because there's just certain areas that are so remote that are very hard to maybe trap out there to get collars on some of those wolves. So trail cameras become a really important aspect of figuring out pack dynamics. Now, right now, we probably have over 300 trail cameras deployed in our entire study area that we have to maintain with batteries, SD cards, make sure everything is working. We generally do that once a month, just get out to all 300 plus of our cameras and check them. And that number always varies. Generally in the winter, when beaver ponds freeze over, we get more cameras out on those ponds and on beaver dams. So the number certainly pushes 400 at times, but it's a combination of the collars that help us not just figure out the predation behavior of the animals, but also their pack territories. But the cameras help that too, because we have tons of cameras set out in each territory. And it also helps inform what pack dynamics are like. Because we're not seeing these animals, we can't see with our eyes how things are changing. So we set out tons of cameras so that we catch hopefully as many wolves as possible on those cameras. And you get to know certain individuals from those cameras, know that one wolf is the breeding animal or the breeding male or female because of specific characteristics and physical, marks on its body and all of that. And it takes a lot, but we see how packs change over time through those trail cameras as well, which is a really important thing because, like I said, we just don't have enough visual observations of these animals to really make much of an inference off of what's going on.
Do you guys actually get like physical visuals of the wolves? Like have you ever gotten one where you're like percentage wise?
We definitely have visual observations every year. I've probably had 4 encounters this summer so far, but in total, like from basically when I started here, which was last April, I have had a total of maybe 6 encounters with wolves. And you'd think that would be a lot higher. Like I'm out in the woods 5 days a week. You'd think with all of that time I'm out there, we'd have a lot more, not just me, but everyone here, we'd have a lot more encounters with these animals, but we just don't. They're very secretive. It's very much like chasing a ghost. We see what they're doing after they've done it as far as kills or sleeping and doing all of that, but we never or very infrequently get a chance to actually see them. And when we do, a lot of times it's just a very brief encounter and that's it. So,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not like frozen tundra, like or open space like Yellowstone and stuff like that. So it's not like you can spot the wolves with binoculars or stuff like that. You have trees, you have all this dense forest blocking your way to even get a visual.
Yeah, it's very different from out there, but in some ways it's nice because it never gets old when you do get those chances to see them. I can't imagine being out in Yellowstone and seeing wolves being just like a normal thing because I've never studied wolves out there. Like this is all I know. So for me, it's just we just don't see them. And it's really it makes doing the work a lot more different and a lot more challenging in some ways, but also I think makes it more rewarding when you do get those chance encounters from time to time.
So being in New York State, we have an abundance of coyotes up here and stuff. How can you tell like visual differences between a wolf and a coyote? Coyote.
So
What do you say? Coyote,
I say
coyote.
coyote, but I
Okay.
hear coyote a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So generally, coyotes, just size-wise, especially up here in northern Minnesota, wolves are larger than coyotes. So if you put kind of two side to side, you would definitely see a size difference there. But up in New York, where there aren't wolves, but you guys have eastern coyotes up there, where the eastern coyotes have some wolf DNA, and they're typically larger than some of the coyotes we have up here in northern Minnesota and other coyotes out west. So say most coyotes have very pointed features. Their noses and muzzles are very pointy. Their ears are also pretty large and pointy as well. Their tails are not as long. They're a little bit more short than wolves. Wolves just they have a different gait than coyotes. For sure, their tails are longer, their muzzles are much more broader. Same for their ears. I'd say that for me is the big teller. Coyotes are just a lot of very pointed features compared to wolves.
So, like, do they eat any differently? It seems like the wolves eat everything, like bone, everything like that. But the coyotes leave a lot of the like bones and stuff like that. They'll eat all the fat and tissue and stuff like that.
Yeah, wolves will eat almost anything, and really same for the coyotes. What they hunt is certainly different. Coyotes generally aren't going to take down or chase down large adult deer, but if there's a roadkill deer, for instance, a coyote's going to eat it. Coyotes will eat a lot more rodents, I would say. They get to hunt and kill rodents a lot more. I mean, both have very generalist sort of diets. They can eat a lot. It's just sort of how they're doing it. I'd say wolves are certainly killing a lot more of the larger ungulates than coyotes. And I'm sure coyotes probably do take some and can take some deer fawns when they're first born and they're more vulnerable, but they definitely share similar diets. It's just sort of how they're taking advantage of that diet and how they're acquiring that food. That's probably a bit different.
Okay. So when I was up at the Wolf Mountain Center with you, I remember you guys explaining that the coyotes and the wolves have like different pack dynamics and stuff. I remember saying like when you hear a coyote, usually it's like one or two. It's not like five or six that everybody thinks of because you can hear them yapping like constantly, but it's just like one or two of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Wolves generally, it's similar but different because wolves wolf pack structure generally consists of a breeding pair, male and female, that have pups. So it's normally the breeding pair, the pups from that year, and then maybe some individual yearlings that were pups the year before. Coyotes, it's a lot more short term. So they also have a breeding pair, a male and a female, and they will have pups, but they'll generally try and kick the pups out before their next breeding season. So the packs, if you want to call them that, are a bit more temporary, and there's a lot more turnover as far as their offspring. They have them, they hang around for a bit, and then they kind of go out on their own. Whereas with wolves, it is more of a cohesive social unit, and it remains as so. And there's always fission and fusion with that. But with coyotes, they're together with the pups, and then the pups are gone, and then they have more pups, then the cycle kind of continues.
Interesting. So like what you said, like when you hear some coyotes howling or yapping, I mean, that's what I call it is, but it's usually just two and everybody thinks it's like 6 or 7 and they're going to be dead in seconds.
Yeah, they're loud and they make so many different vocalizations at once that it just kind of gives you this false sense of just kind of numbers. You think there's so many more of them, but between the yipping and the howling and the barking that they could kind of switch and pivot on at once, it definitely gives you the sense that there's a lot more out there when there really isn't. At the wolf sanctuary, we would always come up with this thing called the rule of 5, where one coyote sounds like 5 coyotes. So if you hear a bunch of coyotes and you think there's like 10 out there, it's probably 2, because one coyote can sound like 5 coyotes, because there are so many different vocalizations and they are very loud. So
that's so cool.
All right, so let's skip back up to the talk about the map, where we've got white, yes, pink, blue.
Also, Ted, what about where is this what national park is this located in again?
Voyager National Park. Is that right?
Is it?
In and around that, Alex?
Yeah, Voyageurs National Park.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
So I see all of these relatively discrete areas with minimal overlap of the GPS tracking, and the caption says GPS locations from collared wolves during 2013 to 2022. So what strikes me as remarkable is how is it that you have all these discrete territories? You talked about pack territory. How do they maintain separate territories?
So it's best way to put it is a lot of wolf packs generally don't want to get into conflict with each other. So lots of pack territories, and you could start to see that on that map, is there's definitely some overlap where, say for instance, the Lightfoot pack and the Paradise pack, you can kind of see in the southwest corner of that map, the Lightfoot and the Paradise pack kind of start to intertwine with each other a bit.
Mm-hmm.
How territories are maintained, all packs want to eat and they're going to have their food, and they sort of maintain their territories by traveling throughout them. Scent marking is a big way that they maintain their territories. So if another wolf from a different pack or a lone wolf comes by, smells a scent mark from a wolf, let's say it's just a urine mark, they'll know that another pack is there and they'll move away from that area. Though that's definitely the big way that sort of packs kind of reinforce their territorial boundaries. They could do it vocally too. If a couple packs get really close to each other, they could howl back and forth to make each other aware of their presence. But generally speaking, urine and scent marking, and there's a bunch of different ways that the scent marking is done, is the big way that those pack territories are reinforced. And things are always changing as well. So nothing is ever just concrete, set in stone, especially with wolves. Things can change very quickly. One pack, for instance, say fizzles out, and then the surrounding packs in that area might start to maybe kind of go into that vacant pack territory a little bit. But scent marking is generally the big way that wolves will sort of reinforce those boundaries.
So one side comment I have looking at this map is you talk about breeding pairs. I would have thought there would be a lot more colors, or a broader spectrum of colors, because I would think that you have a lot more breeding pairs and packs than what's reflected on that map. Is that true? Because this shows like maybe a dozen.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's got to be more than a dozen packs out there roaming around.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of an older map for sure. So some things are definitely different. But this is also just our study area. So there's a lot of areas, especially if you look at that map, that white line, that's what we call the GVE, which means the Greater Voyageurs ecosystem. And that's where we study our animal or study wolves. Now, I have no doubt that there's lots of wolves and wolf packs just outside the Greater Voyageurs ecosystem and other areas. And so this is just kind of reflected of this one general area where we study wolves, but we could only expand the Greater Voyageurs ecosystem in our study area for so long before it becomes a lot to sort of figure out and maintain what's going on. So yeah, that map is just reflected of where we study these wolves.
So I encourage everybody to check out the map. I'm sure Stosh is going to provide a link to the webpage.
Yeah. I just looked at it, and that's actually that. Tad, thank you. That's fascinating shit right there. Wow.
Yeah. I think it's pretty crazy how that works and how they have their own turf. They're like inner city gangs, if you will. Hanging to their own hood type of thing.
It's like their own little park right there. It's just like it's all sectioned, and it looks like kind of like they have a certain range of everyone looks like a certain like similar range to each other.
I think the Shoepack Lake group, and they infringe on the Nastasia quite a bit, but the Shoepack Lake folks are all over the place. They're like the Russians of Minnesota.
Yeah, but they're kind of all the same size each. It's like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I would imagine some of that differs based upon the terrain and the density of prey for how far they have to go to get their kill. But speaking about getting their kill, I'm going to ask Alex the question that Stosh remarkably passed on, and I'm astounded. And when I asked the question, he's like, "Damn it, I missed it." Alex, you told us you had 6 encounters. Tell us about them. What was it like the first time you saw a wolf out in the wild? What was it like? How far away was it? Were you at all nervous? Were you by yourself? What went down?
Yeah, so the first wolf encounter I had here, this was last July. I was by myself. It was pretty quick, kind of what you'd expect from a wolf encounter out here, where I was just kind of searching GPS clusters. I walked into a beaver meadow and I spooked the wolf out of its bed. It just kind of stood up, walked towards the woods. I kind of walked around a little to see if I could get a better look at it. It was just staring at me for a couple of seconds, and then it disappeared into the woods, never to be seen again. And that's what a lot of times it's like. So that was the first one I had.
How far away were you?
I was probably about 20 to 30 meters away. So figure like 20 to 30 steps.
Yeah, you gotta remember, most of the people are American. We can't talk about meters. This is like meters is like hamburgers. Like how many hamburgers are we at?
Yeah, that's that science talk. I want to know if you were close enough to smell its breath or see its teeth.
I was not. Definitely not. At least from that one. Probably the coolest encounter I had, and I would say this is, and I read this on the agenda, so I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone with just one of just like a wow moment I had. And this is probably the most memorable experience I've ever had here was this past winter in late January. So this is, dead of winter, really cold. And I was doing some trail camera work up in Voyageurs National Park, on the peninsula, which is the very north part of our study area. It's very, very remote, difficult part to access. So I was just on a trail, maintaining some cameras on the trail. And this trail runs through the heart of the Listening Point Pack's territory. And while I was on it, it was very clear to see that the wolves were using the trail quite a bit. There was lots of tracks in the snow. I was seeing the urine scent marks and sort of the marking posts as I was going. I got to a trail camera just below a beaver dam, just fixed it up, did what I had to do, and then I walked up onto the dam. Beaver ponds are very cool, and I always like to just look out over them and see what's going on. And standing on top of the beaver lodge out in the pond was a wolf just staring at me, and definitely knew I was there. And it just kind of like the feeling I had, especially in that encounter, was is so vivid in like my stomach and my chest. And I do a lot of wildlife photography, so I had my big telephoto lens in my backpack, which I slowly went to take out as to not scare the animals. And as I was doing that, there was another wolf along the lodge too, just kind of sniffing around. So I took out my camera, was able to get some nice pictures and just watch them for like a minute and a half. Eventually, the wolf on the lodge ran off. The one next to the lodge ran back towards the other end of the ponds, which actually revealed a third wolf that was behind the lodge that I didn't see at first. And that was probably like it. I couldn't shake like the smile off of my face that I had the rest of that day because of how unique that was and how just awesome and cool that was. And I got home later that night and I was able to look through the pictures and I identified those wolves through all of our trail camera footage and stuff like that as the breeding pair of the listening point pack. And then that third wolf that was hiding was likely one of their pups from that past April. So that was truly, truly special.
Cool.
Wow.
You guys give names to them?
So we give, they're not fun names like Frank or Jonathan or anything like that. So the collared wolves, on the collars and their ear tags, there will be a shape, a number, and something else. So for instance, today when I was out doing work, we were following the breeding male of a pack dubbed Y15C. So the Y stands for yellow because the ear tags and the collar is yellow. The 15, the number is on the ear tags, and the C stands for circle, I believe. So the ear tag has 15 circle and then yellow. So it's not exactly I wouldn't call those names cool or, they're not human names, of course. But then also wolves that aren't collared or aren't tagged. Let's say, for instance, those listening point wolves, they don't have any collars or ear tags on them. The breeding male is LP, which stands for listening point underscore BM, which stands for breeding male. And then the female would be LP underscore BF. So.
How are these wolves tagged? Like that's, I mean, I don't know how we didn't ask this in the beginning. How the hell I'm guessing you probably tranquilize them and then tag them?
Yeah, so we have these very specially made foothold traps that are made to minimize injury. And so we'll set out trap lines during our trapping season. And if a wolf gets caught in it, we'll tranquilize them and then we will collar them, put in ear tags, and take a bunch of other biological samples, blood, hair for genetics, basically as much as we possibly can. And then we set them off and then they collect data for us. And sometimes some of those wolves we follow, not all of the wolves that we collar do we actually follow and search GPS clusters for. Like I said, some of the pack territories are a lot harder to access than others. So we sort of make those decisions based off that. But ideally, we like to collar, if we can, as many breeding animals as possible, because those are the ones that are doing a lot of the killing. They're more interesting, but they're also more experienced, so they're a bit more difficult to trap and collar, as opposed to the yearlings, which are a bit more naive, and we end up getting a lot more of those guys than the breeding animals.
How many to a pack do you have usually up there?
So the average changes.
Pack, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember off the top. I think the number is between 3 and 4 as of our last population reports, and we have another population report that should be coming out hopefully sometime soon. It's somewhere within that range, I believe.
So seeing like this stuff on National Geographic of like 10 to like 12 wolves is not really typical where you're working. Is that typical in the other places?
Yeah, the number definitely varies. I think prey is a big reason as to why it varies. Think out west, say in Yellowstone, the wolves are typically killing a lot more larger bodied prey, elk, bison. Whereas here, it's really only adult white-tailed deer in the wintertime, but during the summer, it's fawns, it's beavers, some other random miscellaneous prey as well. So it's not confirmed. We haven't done any studies or published any studies on this, but I would say it's possibly because of the type of prey that the wolves are killing is why our average pack size is generally smaller. And there's always exceptions to that. I mean, I think we do have a pack in our study area that is numbered around 10 individuals. So there's always exceptions to the rule, but generally our average pack size has tended to be smaller than some other areas.
Interesting. So now let's shift this towards the Voyageurs National Park and go more into the New York side of things. Now you are volunteer at the Wolf Mountain Nature Center up in Smyrna.
Yes.
Okay, so if everybody doesn't know, Smyrna is up towards Norwich, which is past Oneonta, which is past the Catskills. It's pretty far away from most of our listeners located down in the tri-state area, but it is worth the visit. I got to spend an overnight there and listening to the wolves howl one night on my birthday. Sorry, everybody, I missed the 3,500 Club dinner, but this was I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, I'll be back, but it was one of those experiences that made me so humble about life that just, everybody who works here, everybody who is there were just deep hearted about this. We just loved it and stuff like that. The staff is just beyond, like I met Alex there and it was just amazing. So now let's chat about your time up at the Wolf Mountain Nature Center. So now, what do you do? How long you been up there? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so I started there in June of 2021, and that was when I was an intern. So when I decided I wanted to do work up there, I known I wanted to do large carnivore stuff for a while, and I needed to do some sort of internship or field thing for my degree. So I ended up going up there because I just wanted to be around the animals and see them and just kind of surround myself with their behavior and get a better understanding of that. Because up until that point, it's just a lot of reading books, a lot of that. But there's only so much you could learn from reading books, reading research papers. Eventually, you want to get out and actually see this stuff in person. So that was my goal, was to do that. So I started off. Education's a big part of what we do. We want to educate people that come, familiarize them with wolves, difference between wolves and coyotes and all of that. Wolves and all large carnivores are generally pretty misunderstood species, and it's a lot of misunderstandings that go around about them. So we want to correct those as much as possible. So I would do a lot of tours and all of that. But I did get the unique opportunity to go on to their DEC license as a assistant animal caretaker. So now I was permitted to enter the enclosures with these, not just wolves, but the coyotes, less the coyotes, but also the foxes as well. And we also have Arctic foxes, gray foxes, and red foxes there. Now, I was told when I got there that that's something I wouldn't be doing, which was fine because I knew I wanted to do research, and it wasn't like I didn't go to the wolf sanctuary with the intention of being like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could get into the enclosures with these wolves. So when that opportunity was offered and afforded to me, it was very, very humbling because that's not something that you get to do. And to enter and share that sort of space with a wolf, knowing everything about wolves, what they're capable of, it's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words. It is humbling. And then to have that individual wolf kind of accept you in that space and be all right with you in their space and come up to you for pets or, muzzle greeting you and all of that. It's truly a wonderful, wonderful, unique thing. So doing all of that was great.
You've got to actually pet these like the wolves and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember
Crazy.
The two timber wolves that we were talking by back in July, Cypress and Tariel? I mean, They love their belly rubs, believe it or not.
Oh
So
shit.
it's pretty crazy.
Their freaking legs, like when I saw them, I fell in love with them because they're just like their legs are so long, they're huge. And we were up there, Alex, we were there when it was like 85 degrees and like 100% humidity. So I felt bad for the wolves because I was like, man, this is not what they're used to. Like, but they were chilling right by everything and just, having a good time. And it was, wow, that's the timber. Oh, that hurts. I want to pet one of them, but I don't want to die. So like, and you loved up there. You work with Will and what's her name?
Will and Pam, yeah,
Man, and they've had it how long? How long has that place been open?
2007 we were established.
Wow, unbelievable. And it's, the cost to get into there to see this is what, $8?
Yes, sometimes changes on special events, so $10, depending on the event, but most of the time it's $8.
That's it. So thinking about you going to a zoo that costs like $50 and you barely see anything, but these wolves will like walk up to the fences. I mean, they're like maybe like 5 to 8 feet away, and they just sit there. And I know I'll always say that's pretty funny. So in the morning, I got up to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I walk over and I walk by one of the areas, and one of the white wolves, I forgot what are they? The Arctic wolves?
Yeah, the Arctics.
He was looking at me and he started to howl, and then all of a sudden everybody started to howl, and then everybody woke up, and I'm just like, oh shit, that was my fault. But somebody told me that was like kind of like a warning because they didn't know me, and he was doing a little like huffing, like huh, 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 and then he would howl. So I was like, hey buddy, good morning, and then I felt like an asshole afterwards because he's like, get the hell away from me. So yeah. So with the working with wolves and stuff like that, studying them, what do you think is the most interesting thing you've learned so far about wolves?
I think with wolves and just other predators, and this is precisely the reason I wanted to study these animals, is just, why do some predators live in social groups and why do some not? Think about cougars, for instance, are pretty solitary predator. But then you have wolves that are just kind of on the complete opposite end of the spectrum there. There's certain canids are pretty social, wolves, coyotes, even though coyotes aren't living in packs to the same extent that wolves are, they're still a pretty social species. But then you also have just complete anomalies. For instance, lions are the only social big cats versus leopards, which are pretty asocial, and I mentioned mountain lions. So I just think it's very interesting. And I don't think we really completely know the answer, but like, why are some species like wolves social versus other carnivores? Why are others more solitary, and sort of the differences in sort of the ecological niche that they fill based off sort of that difference in sociality, I think is really, really, really fascinating stuff. And I think as well, just how does predation drive pup behavior and pup mortality? Why, or I mean, these are all questions. In theory, we don't know the answer, but do certain species that wolves kill lead to higher pup recruitment? And pup recruitment just means pups growing up to through their to adulthood. Does certain species lead to higher pup mortality? How much food do the wolves need to consume to keep the pups alive? And a lot of that stuff is related to the work we're doing up here with the Wolf Project and Voyageurs. But I think all of that stuff is really, really fascinating because it changes every year. No year is the same. It could take, a winter where there isn't as much snow on the ground and maybe pup mortality is higher, and then a lot more of a severe winter, and then pups are surviving more. So say all of those things, and just general predator ecology, just how do these species interact with one another and what the implications of that are, I think are very, very interesting to me. It's very broad. I know it's not like a very specific sort of thing, but to me, it's very, very fascinating stuff.
It shows you got a deep passion for it.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk about when was it that wolves started to disappear in New York. Why did they disappear? And whether or not it's worthwhile to reintroduce them into New York State. Because in particular, I know in my small 4-acre lot, I've got about 7 deer that are in my backyard, 8 hours, every day. Some mornings you wake up and you see where they've bedded down overnight. They'll be here in the morning, whenever. And we have little fawns running around in the spring. So what do you think? When did the last wolves leave New York State, and why don't we have them back in New York like we do have the bald eagle and mountain lions?
Yeah, so wolves started to disappear in New York throughout the 1800s, and that was around the time you started to see wolves really disappear throughout the rest of the lower 48 states. And a lot of that generally coexist, or a lot of that relates to livestock coming into the area, wolves potentially being a threat to livestock. So people would kill them off to sort of eliminate that issue. As far as when we know the last wolf in New York dying kind of varies. I've seen a citation from a research paper on about, I think, 1874, but I've also seen other sources say like the 1890s. So figure somewhere between 1874 and the 1890s was when sort of the last wolf, during which there was an established population or native population in New York, died off. And we've had some, interesting things pop up. I believe this was early 2020s. A wolf was shot in New York that was mistaken for a coyote. Where that wolf came from, I don't think we're positive of, but, nothing, there's wolf populations out in Canada, and wolves are known to travel very long ranges. So nothing is stopping a wolf from Canada from crossing the border every now and then and maybe ending up in New York. But as far as when wolves had a native population in New York, probably around late 1800s.
And this, you said the livestock, was this because they were killing livestock, and the people, or the farmers and stuff that own the livestock, would just shoot them and stuff like that, so they wouldn't die?
Yeah, definitely a threat to livestock. There's also a lot of misconceptions about wolves that went on during that time, particularly wolves being a big threat to humans and potentially injuring or even killing humans, which at the time, we know now a lot of those sentiments are a bit more overstated. Every now and then things pop up as far as injuries, but it's very, very uncommon. But in that time, a lot of that was very, very overstated. So there were probably fears relating to that also caused for removal of wolves and other predators. But I would say livestock operations, sort of the goals of that kind of clashing with wolves, because wolves would potentially from time to time take livestock, is probably a big reason for the predator removal during that time.
Predator removal. So, mountain lions, what can you say about mountain lions? Because we see them all the time on the trail cameras in the Hudson Valley, up in Rochester, stuff like that. They're everywhere in New York State. You cannot say, you can deny this, Alex. It is out there. The evidence is there that we've seen on a trail camera, and it's not a trail camera from Nashville, Tennessee, or like California or stuff. It's the same one. It's actually bullshit. It's all bullshit. I'm sorry. So like, what do we, isn't this ridiculous? Like, people think that they're mountain lions up in New York State. Can you say that's ridiculous? You agree with
I
me?
can't say I don't think there is not a native self-sustaining breeding population of mountain lions in New York State. Now, I'm not going to say people are ridiculous for thinking that, because things pop up. So, they've been absent from the States since kind of around wolves, the late 1800s. And there have been isolated sightings in the States, but most of those involved cougars that were not native to the States. So I think there are some examples of cougars escaping like licensed captive facilities. But one of the more interesting examples was in 2011, there was a wild cougar that traveled through New York from South Dakota, which is, 1,800-mile trek. That cougar ended up dying in a vehicle collision in Connecticut. But you think about that, just the capability of some of these individuals, how far they can range. And there once was cougars and a native population of cougars in New York. So, that was a one-off thing. But, every now and then you might have individuals pop up from other areas. But that doesn't mean, of course, that there's an actual population, a breeding population with kittens or having cubs or anything like that. And as of right now, there's really no evidence to support that.
Yeah,
I mean, who's out there looking for that evidence? Foundations out there, canvassing the area. I mean, obviously, nobody's put collars on them, nobody's tagged them, and there's no nonprofit or governmentally funded organization looking for mountain lions in New York. Is all of that correct, Alex? I think it is. It is.
The DEC monitors sightings, I know for sure. And I know they have a specific part or area on their websites because a lot of these mountain lion or supposed mountain lion sightings obviously spread through social media like wildfire. I know there's a lot they have a specific section on their page of pictures that are like confirmed, like false images. They're either pictures from other states. I know one in particular was a picture that someone made to prank their friends, and the picture wasn't meant to get out, but it somehow got out and then spread like wildfire, as you would imagine. So the DEC definitely, that part of their website, they post updates when it comes to stuff like that. They also give contact information that if there is a potential sighting and there's pictures or video evidence or anything like that, to send it all to them. So while there's not a specific, mountain lion study going on in New York State, a lot of the reason there isn't is because there just isn't a native population of mountain lions there. So a lot of the things that you see cropping up are from people's trail cameras or other sort of miscellaneous things, ring cameras every now and then.
But Alex, let's be honest. If there was a population of mountain lions in New York State, would you agree with me that the DEC wouldn't want that information to be known to the general public because they'd be afraid of the hysteria that it would cause, the decline in Airbnb bookings in the Catskills and the Adirondacks? Tourism would go down, REI sales would go down, and people wouldn't be buying cross treks and driving places to go hiking. It'd have a negative impact on the economy, isn't that true?
People would buy guns and stuff like that.
No, because they wouldn't. There's no hunting season for mountain lions because the DEC then would have to recognize them as not an endangered species. Yada yada, all that red tape. So the DEC. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex. I think there's a lot of if there was a native population of mountain lions in New York, there would be I think there would be so much opportunity to study them. I mean, think about the amounts, through grants, the amount of money that a researcher could apply for to start a project up there to better understand the mountain lions, especially if there was a native population, because if you got to that point, then they'd be doing really, really well, and you would want to learn more about them so people could better understand them. So I don't think it would be exactly the DEC covering it up because people would find out eventually. I think between people having their own personal trail cameras, there would be enough of them at that point to where people would know they are there, and there would be no hiding it at that point, and there would be no sense in hiding it. That being said, I can't stress enough how unlikely it is. It's just the odds of, and just how difficult it is for, let's say it's a wolf or a mountain lion, just any species that, has this large area that they don't inhabit, for them to sort of recolonize that territory. And then in addition to that, work to a point where there's an established breeding population of them is very, very unlikely. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get more into the wolf reintroduction possibilities into the Adirondacks. But there's just so much human influence, even through the Catskills, the Adirondacks, that, an individual may make it into the area, but then where's the closest population that connects to it where another individual come in? It's just, right now, it's all isolated sightings. There isn't a self-sustaining population. And the odds of there being one are pretty low. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's quite low. So
Right. So, yeah, now that you raised the topic, why don't we talk about bringing wolves back into?
I got one thing to say that Alex can get these wolves all over the time on 400 trail cameras, but thousands and thousands of trail cameras in New York State can't get a mountain lion. Like, come on.
there's a reason. Yeah, there probably is. And everyone I've seen, I mean, I saw something like a few weeks ago, just really quickly, was like, it was just an article. It's like unconfirmed mountain lion sighting in New York. And on sort of the picture of the article was the trail camera picture. It was a bobcat. Like it was
Yeah.
100% a bobcats, zero doubts about that. So yeah,
It's very like I don't see nobody shows up a paw print of that in this with the winter time. We have a pretty decent winter here, but once again, it's weird to say, but anyway, I get stuck on these mountain lion things. It just triggers me. I'm sorry, Alex. It's
no problem.
it's hilarious because everybody just thinks they've seen one, and then there's like a kitty cat paw print in their backyard of just a regular cat, and they're just like, oh my god, this mountain lion wandered in my backyard. Look at the size of this tail.
Yeah. So before we move on, I did it one time. Foil from the DEC.
Oh, yes.
All the reported sightings of mountain lions in New York State. And I got like terabytes of data from people's trail cams of like their neighbor's cat walking through their backyard at night.
It was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's our house mountain lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every cat's dream.
So can we get back on the wolf topic? Can we reintroduce wolves back into New York State? I would think it'd be like a no because of how dense, how many, how the housing situation that's not open.
Yeah, well, it's a very loaded question, and that's not just for wolves, but just any carnivore reintroduction conversations. They're just so complicated and have so many layers to them. It's never a simple yes or no answer. But I think when you're looking into these questions, you have to sort of look at it from an ecological feasibility and a human feasibility. But predicting how wolves will respond to a new environment, even with all of the data and information we collect, is very, very difficult. Wolves once roamed many parts of New York and many parts of the lower 48 states where they currently don't roam. But New York looks a lot different now than it did when wolves were roaming it. So predicting these things are very difficult. So again, looking at it from sort of these different feasibility areas is, I think, the best way to do it. Now, let's start from the ecological perspective. Before wolves were extirpated from much of their native range, they were the most widely distributed predator in the world, and they occupied much of the land available in the northern hemisphere. That includes North America and Eurasia. And just think of all of the different types of habitats that wolves were occupying throughout that enormous range. I mentioned here in Minnesota, we have southern boreal forest. Wolves do well out here. Out west, you have a mixture of mountainous areas, alpine tundras, mountain meadows. They do well out there. You have Mexican gray wolves occupying scrublands and mountain forests further south. They do well there. So even with the current range that wolves occupy, you could see how many different sort of types of habitats they do. Now, we define wolves as being opportunistic generalists. And what that means is that wolves can eat a wide variety of prey. We touched upon this a little bit, and they can adapt to exploit different sources of prey very quickly. For instance, we mostly know wolves as being predators to ungulates, say white-tailed deer, elk, moose, bison, bighorn sheep, and a lot more. But they have the capability to do what's called prey switching to other species when ungulate population densities are down or those species just aren't available. An example of that here in Minnesota is once winter ends and the snow melts, adult white-tailed deer become a lot more difficult to kill. So beavers come out, the ponds melt, and wolves start killing a lot more beavers. And then fawns will be born. Wolves will switch to fawns because fawns are not just abundant but available. But then fawns are going to get to a point by say mid-July where they're a lot more bigger. They can outrun wolves. And now fawns, while still abundant, aren't available or as available as they used to be because they are a lot more difficult to kill. So wolves will then switch back to hunting and killing beavers during that time. So, and that's just a microcosm in northern Minnesota here. You see that through these other areas as well. But what we know is that the single largest ecological limiting factor to wolf population densities is food supply. If there's enough food for wolves to eat, then they can live there. So bringing this all back to the Adirondacks, white-tailed deer densities in, let's just say, and I'm using the Adirondacks as an example because the Adirondack Park has frequently from time to time been used as sort of a potential place for wolf reintroduction. So I'm just sticking to that general area, but because of that history. But white-tailed deer in the Adirondacks appear to be adequate to sustain wolf populations. Their densities are pretty similar to the deer densities we see up here in northern Minnesota, where we study our wolves. You also have lots of beavers in the area, and they may serve or could serve as an important seasonal food source for wolves in the area. There's also moose. Their moose populations generally are higher up there than we have here. That being said, we don't see tons of moose predation. Wolves will certainly scavenge a moose that die of natural causes, but they're not really hunting moose. They're not hunting adult moose. Maybe every now and then we'll see a calf kill, but it's pretty uncommon. But moose could serve as a potential source of food for wolves in the Adirondacks. But in some parts of the Adirondacks are probably better suited to sustain higher prey densities than other areas. So that would also dictate where in the park you would see higher densities of wolves. You can't just say look at a large area like Adirondack Park or any other area in upstate New York and be like, if we just introduce wolves here, the prey densities across that area is good. Humans obviously play a role there, and some areas have higher human development than others. So you might see higher or lower wolf densities or prey densities based on all of that. So, that kind of taking away the human aspect of this, I think wolves from a prey, I think there is enough prey to where if wolves were introduced, wolves would probably find and they'd kill their prey. Now, that is the ecological side of things, and that is just one aspect. You have to also consider the human aspect. I mentioned earlier that prey density and food supply is the largest ecological limiting factor for wolf population densities. The other big limiting factor is humans, which make this a good time to talk about sort of the human side of all of this. Now, I mentioned a little earlier, the big reason wolves were extirpated in the lower 48 states was because of livestock and the threat of livestock depredations. And that factor is still a big reason for public intolerance of wolves today. You also now have concerns from hunters and guides who consider wolves competitors for big game animals like white-tailed deer, moose in certain areas. And there's still some fears of wolf attacks on humans. It's not nearly as large as it was way back when, but those fears still persist. And there's also fears of attacks on pets, which is also a pretty reasonable fear. But that's just like sort of a human attitude thing. You also have to consider human developments. Livestock operations generally cause worry about depredations, and multiple studies have shown that as wolf numbers and distribution increases, so do livestock depredations. But you also have to consider roads, railroad crossings, and other broader human developments or zones of human activity and how this would impact wolves. Wolves generally prefer high quality habitat, and although they can tolerate some high human densities, they tend to avoid them. And that is potentially a major issue, say in a place like the Adirondacks or somewhere else in central upstate New York. There is a lot more human densities. So ideally, if you wanted to reintroduce wolves into that area, it would and have that be a long-term sustaining population, habitat connectivity is really, really important, not just within, say, an area like the Adirondacks, but also outside it. Within the park, if you had patches of habitat that are well suited for wolves, but are cut off from other high quality habitat patches, then that is not good for genetic diversity. The probability of survival for dispersers or individuals leaving the packs they were born into and navigating other areas, and it probably also increases the probability of local extinction. And then you combine that, and I'll just say this one more point, with the limited connectivity to other wolf populations. If you introduced wolves into the Adirondacks, what are other wolf populations outside of New York that would be connected to that New York wolf population, which we don't really have any, or any bordering states or even Canada? Those issues also become more prevalent because you don't have immigration and emigration sources to and from other populations.
God
Okay,
damn.
I'm not going to argue with that. Yeah.
That you seriously know your shit. How many books have you read? Like thousands?
A few tens, maybe 20s.
Tens of thousands? Yeah, tens of thousands.
No,
I thought so.
no.
My God, like, are you doing presentations on this? Because, Alex, this would be fantastic stuff for you to do. Like, are you going to lead the Voyager project soon?
No. I can't even imagine what the things that my boss has to deal with on a day-to-day basis and just how much work there is. But yeah, hopefully, at some point I could get to I could get to doing this work, something similar or like that. But I still have a lot to learn. I mean that truly. So,
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
It seems
Really.
like you have just the most information I have ever received on this podcast in 189 episodes ever. Like, it's insane. Like, awesome. Wow. It's just all around information, not just from Northern Canada, but then your stuff about New York State, the reintroductions to them in here and stuff like that. It goes beyond what I thought it would be. Like, it's just like insane.
It is. And just to even kind of put a bow, because with any of, like I said, it's never a simple yes, no answer. And you're probably starting to see why these conversations are so complicated and layered. Kind of going back quickly to sort of the Adirondacks, in particular, like, there's certainly a prey base to support wolves, but that doesn't consider the human factors. And that really is the crux of not only this conversations, but all conversations relating to predator reintroductions. If there's enough food, those species can probably live there. They will find the food and they'll find enough food. But I think it boils down to, do humans want them there? And what human attitudes are there regarding these species, and will developments be an issue? Those things will always be the biggest limiting factor to reintroducing wolves and other predators into some of their historic range.
So now, Tad, we need to reintroduce wolves down to the Harriman, where they're starting to go for the hunting, right? That'll solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's from what I've heard so far, if I understand Alex correctly, we're just like, the DEC commissioner's signature away from getting that done. Doesn't sound too complicated. We'll go out to Minnesota while they're working on the papers. We'll go out to Minnesota, grab some tagged animals, bring them on back. We'll get YBF9 and blue BF23.
We'll bring them here.
A couple good breeders. We'll be rolling.
So, last question, Alex, when you're up in Smyrna and stuff like that, do you come up from Long Island? And where do you like to go? You ever stop around the Catskills? It's we call this post-hike Brews and Bites. You like to suggest any local spot that you want to give a shout out to that you love?
When I'm in Smyrna and I have the time, there's always been multiple areas, but Gilligan's, which is in Sherburne, has always been not just a popular spot for me, but basically everyone that works at the Wolf Preserve. They've always been great to us. We've done stuff with them and vice versa. So they've always been great. And then I would even just from the Oneonta perspective, because I know you're from Oneonta and I went to school there, is Tino's Pizza, and that the cold cheese pizza there got me through many years of undergrad. So I love them, and I yearn for that again someday. So
100% agree. I don't know. I'm a Sal's kind of guy. So, let's,
how about that?
yeah. Well,
Fighting words.
it's, it is a really big thing in here in Oneonta is the Sal's versus Tino's thing. It is really big. So, Alex, thank you for joining us tonight. Awesome discussion about wolves in New York State, wolves out in northern Minnesota, and your knowledge about wolves just freaking blows my mind. I'd love to have you back on the show, maybe for something else about mountain lions. So start studying mountain lions, reading books so you can get on the show and we can talk about mountain lions in New York State, because everybody's seen them on their thousands and thousands of trail cameras just in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah. I have all that footage from the DEC, Alex. I'll have to send it to you.
Send it to me. Yeah, I'd be happy to look at it.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you to the monthly supporters and monthly sponsors. Really appreciate you guys supporting the show. Also, thank you to everybody who's still listening to the show. 189 episodes in. Alex talks to us about wolves and just goes all out. Not the other way. But thank you for joining us, Alex. Have a good night. Hopefully talk to you later. We'll see you up at the Wolf Center.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.